The sun hung high in a clear blue sky, casting golden rays over a small island in the Pacific. Nearby, the sounds of the ocean created a tranquil backdrop, but here, at the airstrip, a group of Japanese Zero pilots lounged in relaxed camaraderie. Their laughter floated in the air, mingling with the salty breeze, as they swapped stories of aerial duels and the chaos of combat. They were masters of the sky, and in their eyes, nothing could touch them. One pilot, brushing off the sand from his uniform, leaned back against the cool metal of his aircraft. "Have you heard about this new American fighter they're calling the Hellcat?" He chuckled, skepticism written across his brow. His comrades joined in, laughter ringing louder as they exchanged exaggerated descriptions of yet another heavy, clunky American machine. "What are they thinking? It's just a big, slow loaf of bread. We'll take it down without breaking a sweat." The weight of their arrogance hung thick in the air, a false sense of security fueling their morale. Yet the island felt like a still pond, unaware that waves were forming in the distance. The intelligence reports they laughed at told a different story. Engineers in the US had been hard at work, pushing the boundaries of aviation technology. In stark contrast to their dismissive banter, a distant rumble began to stir. The sound of engines reverberated through the airstrip, morphing into a roar that pierced through their light-hearted conversation. The deep blue of the sky was suddenly marked by streaks of gunfire as an F6F Hellcat swooped in from the sun, a gleaming predator ready to engage. Time seemed suspended for a heartbeat. The pilot's laughter faded into stunned silence as they looked skyward, eyes widening in disbelief. An explosion ripped through the tranquility. One of their precious Zeros disintegrated, scattering debris like ragged confetti against the azure backdrop. The Hellcat, nimble and fierce, claimed its first victory, soaring through the smoke, its roar echoing a promise of transformation. What was once an oasis of confidence now felt like the eye of a storm. The balance of power in the Pacific was shifting, the winds of war blowing colder. Arrogance met innovation, and the quiet island was suddenly a battleground. The reality sunk in, palpable and terrifying. The Hellcat was not just another machine, but a harbinger of something unprecedented. It wasn't just a fighter, it was an evolution, one that would reshape the skies forever. As the sun rose over the vast expanses of the Pacific in 1943, the stage was set for a relentless aerial showdown. The Japanese Zero, a plane that had captured hearts with its speed and agility, roamed the skies like a predator. Pilots marveled at its prowess in dogfights, its lightweight design allowing for breathtaking maneuvers that left many of their adversaries gasping for breath. It was the embodiment of air supremacy, a title it wore with pride as it racked up kill counts and instilled fear among Allied forces. Yet, beneath that seemingly invincible exterior lay the Zero's vulnerabilities. There were no armor plating and no self-sealing fuel tanks. These weaknesses, however minor they might seem in the face of such performance, weren't lost on those who dogfighted daily beneath its shadow. American pilots began to recognize that brute force and resilience could outlast sheer speed. They needed a counter to reclaim dominance in the skies. In the heart of this brewing conflict, Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation answered the urgent call of the US Navy. With a roar of determination, they set to work on a brand new beast, the F6F Hellcat. This formidable aircraft wasn't just a product of engineering prowess, it embodied the spirit of resilience and adaptability that characterized the American fight during the war. The Hellcat was designed for survivability. Its robust structure could withstand hits that would leave the Zero crumpled in pieces. In a world where every dogfight could be your last, this new model offered pilots a fighting chance and the confidence to fly into perilous skies. Simplicity in design was crucial. It meant more planes could be manufactured quickly, allowing the American naval air forces to multiply and swarm their opponents. As the F6F rolled out of Grumman's factories, it was more than just a new aircraft. It was the ultimate air war equalizer. With each plane that left the assembly line, hope soared alongside it. The tide was turning, and for every fearless Zero that patrolled the heavens, a Hellcat lurked, ready to take the fight to the heart of the enemy, soaring with a promise of retribution and a determination to seize control. And as pilots prepped for battle, they knew, in the harrowing skies of the Pacific, the winds of change were about to blow. The design philosophy behind the Hellcat was revolutionary, embodying a unique blend of ruggedness and agility that defied conventional fighter aircraft thinking of its time. Picture this: while other fighters, like the Japanese Zero, were built for speed and grace, the Hellcat strutted onto the scene like a grizzly bear, large, powerful, and unyielding. With its heart, a massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, this aircraft wasn't just about looks, it was engineered for raw performance. The R2800 engine wasn't just a powerhouse, it provided the Hellcat with impressive speed and climbing capabilities that its competitors could only dream of. Imagine pilots sitting in the cockpit, gripping the controls of a machine that seemed to roar to life with every thrust. It was as if the plane itself had a personality, bold, resilient, and ready to pounce. Now, let's talk about armor. The Hellcat boasted thick metal plating that could withstand heavy enemy fire, setting it apart from the more delicate, almost fragile designs of its contemporaries. This was a fighter that could take a beating and still bring its pilot home. We've all heard tales of those rare breeds that walk away from serious wrecks. Think of the Hellcat as the ultimate survival machine on the battlefield. It had self-sealing tanks, a critical feature that curtailed the chances of catastrophic fuel leaks. Could you imagine knowing that even if you got hit, you stood a better chance of returning in one piece? As for firepower, the Hellcat packed a punch with its heavy armament. It wasn't just designed to win dogfights, it was crafted to make every round fired count. Pilots described the feeling of flying this aircraft as akin to wielding a club in a knife fight. Engaging in combat with a Hellcat was like a grizzly charging straight into action, powerful, relentless, and unforgiving. This design philosophy made the Hellcat not just a fighter crafted for victory, it was built for survival. Pilots affectionately dubbed it the Grumman Iron Works, a nod to its robust construction and unwavering reliability. The Hellcat became notorious for returning home riddled with bullets, embodying a hope and resilience for the men who flew them. Amidst the chaos of war, it provided a lifeline, proving that sometimes it's not just about how fast you are or how beautifully you can turn in the sky. Sometimes it's about enduring the trial, standing strong, and getting back to tell the tale. The journey from the early Wildcat fighters to the legendary Hellcat is a masterclass in evolution born from necessity. As the US Navy faced down the Japanese Zero at pivotal engagements like Midway, it became painfully clear that American pilots needed a solution that could match, not just survive, the skills of their opponents. This is where our story of the Hellcat begins. Following the battles, US intelligence meticulously studied every captured Zero. Picture engineers examining the delicate design and performance of these aircraft, dissecting them like a puzzle eager to be solved. They identified multiple weaknesses: slow climb rates, poor durability in dogfights, and vulnerabilities in armor. This newfound knowledge was a game changer, pushing designers to think creatively and pragmatically. While the Wildcat had shown promise, it ultimately fell short against the superior maneuverability and speed of the Zero. The engineer's mission was clear: create a fighter that combined the best of both worlds, an aircraft that could climb quickly and roll effectively without jeopardizing its operational range. They drew inspiration from the Zero's strengths, while being unyielding about crafting an American fighter that could challenge the meanest of skies. The Hellcat's first flights were the turning point that many had been waiting for. Pilots took to the sky with a sense of cautious optimism. It wasn't just about speed, it was the Hellcat's unwavering toughness and staggering firepower that gave them confidence. This aircraft could take a hit and keep flying, something that was vital in the aggressive dogfighting scenarios that lay ahead. As footage captured these planes soaring into the sunset, it wasn't just an achievement for the engineers, it was a triumph for the American spirit. The lessons of the battlefield, from the bruising encounters of the Wildcat to the tactical reconsiderations born from Midway, had culminated in this new fighter. The Hellcat wasn't just meeting the challenge, it was defining how America would fight back. This shift not only inspired a generation of pilots, but also reignited hope in a pivotal moment during World War II, where the stakes could not have been higher. From the ashes of defeat sprung an aircraft that would change the tide of war, elevating the capabilities of American aviators and proving once and for all that they could stand toe-to-toe with the infamous ace pilots of Japan and emerge victorious. As the sun rose over the Pacific in 1943, marking a new chapter in aerial warfare, the scene was set for the Hellcat's baptism by fire. The distant echo of engines roared to life, filled with a promise of power and an unyielding spirit. Pilots strapped into their F6F Hellcats felt the weight of their craft, not just as machines, but as embodiments of hope and determination for their comrades on the ground. On that fateful day, above the strategic outpost of Marcus Island, American pilots were about to engage in one of the most intense dogfights of the war. Veteran Japanese pilots, once unchallenged, were in for a harsh surprise. They had grown comfortable in their dominance, effortlessly swatting the older Wildcats from the skies. But as the Hellcats surged into the fray, their complacency turned into dread. This wasn't just another aerial skirmish. This was a clash of old legends against a new force of nature. With its formidable firepower, the Hellcat quickly revealed its teeth. Armed with 650 caliber machine guns, each burst of fire was enough to turn a plane from enemy to debris. Rookie American pilots, who had trained under the shadow of their predecessors, found themselves soaring with a newfound confidence. With each skirmish, they learned to exploit the Hellcat's agility while also benefiting from its rugged durability, a contrast to the fragility of the older aircraft. They could take hits and still return to fight another day, emboldening them in ways they never imagined. As combat continued, the kill ratios astonished both forces. The Americans began to dominate the skies, racking up victories at a staggering pace. Initially, it was 5-1, but as weeks turned into months, that number swelled to 9-1. Each tally didn't just reflect aircraft destroyed, it represented lives touched, brothers lost and found, and the very dynamic of the Pacific theater shifting under their feet. For those rookie pilots, the Hellcat wasn't merely a weapon, it was a lifeline. The shared experiences of adrenaline-fueled flights, the camaraderie forged in the fires of conflict, and the weight of survival created bonds that would last a lifetime. Each encounter at Rabaul and beyond transformed them from green pilots into seasoned warriors, each dogfight a testament to their grit and tenacity. But with every victory came the shadows of loss. As they returned to base, the weight of what they had witnessed hung heavily in the air. Facing relentless foes, they understood the sacrifices made by those who had come before them. The Hellcat was more than it seemed, an icon that blended bravery with innovation, ushering in a new era of aerial dominance in the Pacific skies. The stage was set for greater conflicts, but the legacy of the Hellcat had only just begun to unfold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the skies in hues of orange and purple, two legendary fighters danced in the vast expanse above the Pacific theater. The graceful Japanese A6M Zero and the rugged American F6F Hellcat. In this aerial ballet, two distinct philosophies clashed. Dogfighting, dominated by the lightness and agility of the Japanese, contrasted sharply by the brute force and team-oriented tactics employed by their American counterparts. The Zero was, in essence, a work of art, a testament to Japanese design philosophy that prioritized nimbleness and responsiveness. Pilots trained to rely on their instincts, executing breathtaking maneuvers with grace. Picture the pilot weaving through the clouds, feeling the aircraft's every heartbeat, diving, rolling, and climbing in a tantalizing display of aerial ballet, leading the dance of death with precision and poise. But then there's the Hellcat, a symbol of American engineering, representing a different mindset entirely. Built for war, it embraced the raw power and the synergy of teamwork. In the cockpit, the pilot's ears buzzed with communication, radios crackling with orders that allowed for coordinated strikes and relentless pressure. With a dive tackle of exhilarating energy and an almost feral hunger for victory, the Hellcat was a juggernaut. Imagine now a fateful engagement. The air crackles with tension as a Zero, in a desperate move, attempts a climbing spiral. The pilot sees an opportunity, thinking he can outmaneuver the American brute, feeling invincible in the weightlessness of his craft, elegantly spiraling upwards. But the Hellcat is not just a machine, it's a beast trained for this moment. With a roar, the Hellcat dives. The pilot's heart races as he tracks the Zero, adrenaline pumping through his veins. The world narrows to the target ahead, the spiraling Zero oblivious to its impending doom. In an instant, the Hellcat closes the distance, diving with a speed that would make the bravest bird shudder. A flick of the wrist, and combat readiness transforms into an unrelenting assault. The Hellcat's 6 guns open up, fierce and decisive, unleashing a hail of fire in half a second. It's over almost before it began. The Zero, once elegant and fierce, is reduced to a spinning wreck, a stark reminder that amidst grace, raw power, and teamwork could prove lethal. As the remains of the aerial duel drift down to the vast ocean below, we see this clash of philosophies isn't just a testament to flying machines, but a metaphor for the greater conflict at play. It's about striking a balance between the beauty of instinct and the utility of brute force, an understanding that sometimes power can overshadow grace in the deadly art of dogfighting, a cruel reality where instinctive maneuvers may often meet a swift end against the weight of coordination and strength. As we delve deeper into the heart of industrial warfare, we must turn our gaze to the bustling factories of Grumman on Long Island. These weren't just buildings, they were the lifeblood of a nation mobilizing for a fight. Day and night, workers poured their hearts and sweat into assembling fighter planes that would soon dominate the skies of the Pacific. Each Hellcat that rolled off the line wasn't just a machine. It represented hope, resilience, and the promise of victory. Imagine a worker, hands stained with grease, as the rhythmic sound of tools intersects with the hum of factory machinery. With every bolt secured and wing attached, a palpable sense of purpose filled the air. Hundreds of Hellcats were produced each month, designed not just for agility and speed, but also for ease of maintenance. This meant that our heroes on the front lines, sailors and mechanics, had aircraft they could rely on. The Hellcat was engineered for direct combat, but it was also built for the heart and soul of the American worker. In stark contrast to Japan's Zero, which was crafted with a meticulous artisanal touch, the Hellcat exemplified the spirit of industrialization. While the Zero may have been a masterpiece of ancient craftsmanship, the Hellcat stood as a testament to American ingenuity and mass production. Created on an assembly line, it was a flying fortress that could be repaired quickly, allowing our pilots to return to combat time and again. Every crate filled with Hellcats shipped across the Pacific held a promise that each American pilot would get another chance to soar through the clouds, to engage in battle, and to come home victorious. For every soldier flying into enemy territory, there was a team of dedicated workers back home, pride swelling in their chests as they contributed to the war effort in the most tangible ways. When we think about the war in the Pacific, let's not forget those men and women in the factories who risked everything on the home front, who understood that their labor was saving lives. They were part of a collective effort, fueling a war machine that would ultimately turn the tide and claim victory in the skies. In their hands, the tools of industry became instruments of liberation. The Hellcat wasn't just a plane, it was a beacon of hope flying high at the dawn of a new world order. As the dawn of naval aviation transformed the battlefield, the Hellcat emerged as a shining beacon of hope over the vast expanse of ocean. In the midst of the chaos in the Pacific theater, fast carrier task forces became the linchpin of naval strategy, and this is where the Hellcat truly flourished. Imagine the scene. Aboard a massive aircraft carrier, the roar of engines fills the air as pilots prepare to launch. The Hellcat, with its rugged design and formidable power, perfectly complemented this new paradigm of warfare. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Hellcat was its ability to launch quickly, giving it a head start in the race for air superiority. In a time when every second counted, this fighter could be catapulted off the deck, soaring into the skies almost instantaneously. It didn't just join the fray, it was a relentless predator, capable of patrolling for extended periods. Picture daring pilots sky-high, scanning for enemy threats, their eyes locked on the horizon, their hearts pounding, patrolling for their comrades, knowing that their vigilance could turn the tide of battle. What stood out even more was the Hellcat's resilience. It wasn't just about speed and firepower, it had an undeniable toughness. This aircraft could return to its carrier, often with battle scars of its own, landing safely even after sustaining damage. For pilots, each successful landing meant another day, another chance to fight, testament to the Hellcat's reputation as the Navy's guardian angel. In critical raids over the Marianas, Leyte Gulf, and the Philippine Sea, the Hellcat didn't just engage in dogfights, it defined the skies. It became evident that air superiority was no longer a mere concept. It was a hard-won reality. The statistics paint a vivid picture. For every Hellcat lost in combat, nearly 20 enemy planes were brought down. To put that into perspective, it wasn't just about individual victories, it was about a paradigm shift. The Hellcat wasn't just a fighter, it was emblematic of the tenacity and spirit of those who flew it, the heroes who risked it all in the name of freedom. These courageous pilots, with the Hellcat at their side, were not just fighting for their lives, they were safeguarding their comrades and charting the course toward victory, one mission at a time. In the heart of the Pacific, they were more than warriors. They were guardians of liberty, ensuring the skies remained clear and safe for all those who dared to sail into the unknown. In June 1944, the stage was set for one of the most pivotal moments in the Pacific theater of World War II, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, an event that would soon echo through history as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. On this summer day, over 500 Japanese aircraft launched from their carriers, a palpable show of force intent on crippling the advancing US fleet. For the pilots, this wasn't just another mission. It was about honor, survival, and the ever-looming threat of defeat. As the sun rose over the horizon on the other side of the vast Pacific, American pilots prepared for what they believed would be a fateful confrontation. But they had something the Japanese didn't account for: training, coordination, and the fury of desperation stirred by the brutal reality of war. The Hellcat fighters, sleek and powerful, awaited the incoming storm. These were not just machines, they were symbols of resilience and determination. When the first waves of enemy planes soared into the sky, the air crackled with tension. But right from the outset, the US pilots took command. Aerial maneuvers showcased a level of expertise that not only outmatched the enemy, but proved to be devastatingly effective. As they engaged in combat, the Japanese pilots quickly realized they were ill-prepared for the onslaught ahead. The radio chatter that crackled through the airwaves captured the palpable shift in fortune. There was a haunting desperation among the surviving Japanese pilots as they began reporting back. "The enemy fighters climb like demons," one of them exclaimed, a testament to the skilled American pilots soaring above them. In what would unfold over the course of just one day, nearly 300 Japanese aircraft were destroyed. This wasn't mere happenstance. It was execution of a battle plan perfected through countless hours spent in training and preparation, a culmination of experience that brought their prowess to a terrifying peak. Pilots shared stories of the days leading up to the battle, recounting how they had come to learn their planes inside and out, ensuring that when the time came, they would not falter. As the final waves of enemy aircraft fell from the skies like broken birds, the cruelty of war painted a grim picture, a clear indicator that the mockery of the American forces had transformed into something much more serious. The nicknames and laughter that once filled the air about an untested fleet now fell silent, overshadowed by the stark reality of victory and loss. By the end of the day, not just a battle had been won, but a legend was also born. The Hellcat cemented its place in history as the scourge of the skies, a deadly reminder to the Japanese forces and a source of newfound hope for the Americans. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, once seen as a mere skirmish, evolved into a shocking lesson on the dynamics of air combat, one that reminded all participants of the devastating costs of war and the extraordinary capability of those who fly. In this decisive moment, the laughter finally stopped, replaced by a solemn understanding that in war there are no victors without sacrifice, and the landscape of the Pacific was forever changed. As we explore the legacy of the F6F Hellcat, we step into the echoes of history, where the stakes were high and the skies were anything but safe. By the war's end, the Hellcat had clinched over 5,000 aerial victories, an astounding number that eclipsed any other US naval fighter of its time. Picture a squadron of brave young pilots, their adrenaline fueling every flight, knowing they had a machine beneath them that breathed victory. This wasn't just another plane, it was a testament to American ingenuity and sheer determination. The Hellcat didn't turn the tide of the Pacific by accident. It took grit, strategic planning, and an unrivaled spirit of resilience. American pilots didn't just fly the Hellcat, they formed a bond with it, considering it their guardian angel in the skies. The very thought of soaring into battle in the Hellcat gave them a sense of invincibility. They leaned on its powerful engines, stable structure, and devastating armament, trusting that each mission would be another mark in their favor. This connection was palpable, forging a sense of brotherhood among the men, as they all understood the risks and the price they might have to pay. In stark contrast, Japanese survivors on the ground had a different perspective. For them, the Hellcat emerged as a symbol of their own waning dominance, a sleek, fierce dragon that breathed fire and death into their once untouchable fleet. Many of them had witnessed firsthand how the Hellcat erased their aerial supremacy, snuffing out their trusted Zeros with tactical precision, altering the course of dogfights that once seemed foregone conclusions. For every pilot that faced the Hellcat, there was a haunting realization that this wasn't just an aircraft, it was a harbinger of their defeat. These contrasting narratives remind us that while the Hellcat was a machine built of metal and technology, it also represented the raw human emotions of hope, fear, and unwavering courage. The pilots who flew it knew they were part of something larger than themselves, a mission that could change history. So, as we reflect on the impact of the Hellcat, we must remember that it faced mockery from some, those who dismissed it as just another fighter. They laughed until it swept the sky clean, proving itself as an unbreakable force and an enduring legend. In the end, the legacy of the Hellcat isn't merely defined by its victories, but by the spirit it embodied, a spirit that resonates with all of us who dare to rise above adversity and strive for greatness.